Hey guys, what's going on? This is your old pal CHH here today, and today we're looking at a new Scream Factory title, and guess what? It's not a reissued 4K from Blu-ray. It's actually something new. So I was excited about that. Of course, I'm talking about the new movie Phantoms. Disclosure, I had never seen this before. And to be honest with you, I'll tell you exactly how I heard about Phantoms. As silly as this sounds, was I was watching a Scream documentary, and Liv Schreiber actually just mentioned it in passing. Like, yeah, I'd done... You know, he does in that monotone voice, I had done some work in, Phantoms. Like, that was it. They showed the poster of it, and I was like, oh, cool. What is that? And then I just never bought it. I would never see it on streaming sites. I'm not saying it didn't exist, but, it's not a movie I ever hear being discussed. And that doesn't mean that there are not people that don't discuss this movie. What I'm saying is, because I feel like people use terms like that, it's way too broad. The reality is, in my world, people typically don't discuss it. So I was pretty excited to get this, but what's interesting is I kind of gauge stuff by the way Instagram is, like, on my feed, because most of it, 95% of it is physical media. I say to myself, or I was saying to myself today, wow, am I the only person that's posted about Phantoms? I might have seen one or two people about it, but no excitement for Phantoms. But I'm hoping, people will appreciate when Scream Factory actually does put out something from the past that has been missing. I say missing, but hasn't had the treatment, so to speak, yet or anything like that, and that's Phantoms. So here's the brief synopsis about Phantoms, because I don't want to spoil anything about this. Phantoms was a Dean Koontz novel, which I know who Dean Koontz is, but I didn't know that it was actually a Dean Koontz movie until I put in the movie, and then when the Phantoms logo screen comes up, it actually says Dean Koontz below it, and I was like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. So he was kind of like the other guy besides Stephen King. I think a lot of people that are like big readers may even tell you that Dean Koontz is a better writer than Stephen King. I'm not here to say yes or no, because I'll be honest, I've only read maybe 50 to 60 books in my entire life, which is kind of pathetic. Maybe, that's not true, maybe a little more than that, but a lot of them are autobiographies. I love autobiographies of people I'm interested in. Regardless, yeah, it's a Dean Koontz story. Now, the cast of this movie was really great. You had Liv Schreiber in here. You have my girl, Rose McGowan, which, to me, hottest woman from Scream of all time. And she's a great actress. I just like her. She's a strong woman. Everything about Rose I'm a big fan of. I've always been a big fan of her. She speaks her mind. Huge Rose McGowan fan. But anyway, she's great in this movie. Visually, I'll tell you what Phantoms reminds me of. It reminds me of Twin Peaks. Now, off memory, I can't remember what small town Rose and I think it's like her older sister are pulling into in the movie. It's basically four people in this movie. Now you get a little bit of extra throughout the movie, but it's very small. Rose McGowan and another girl are coming into this town where Rose is coming to live, more or less, and it's empty. There's nobody there. It's quiet. There's cars running outside with nobody in the cars, and all of a sudden they start seeing bodies just on the ground. But there's no blood. Like, there's no blood. You'll just see dead people that look like they were murdered. There's no blood or anything. And then you meet the cops, and then you've got Liv Schreiber, and then you got Ben Affleck, which a young Ben Affleck in this movie was really cool. And Ben's great. Like, I've seen, of course, Ben Affleck films, but I can't ever say, like, oh, I have a favorite Ben Affleck movie. I've never been that big of a fan of his. I like him. I don't like, if I see a movie he's in, I don't not watch it. But my point is, I'm not the person to ask when it's like, what's the best Ben Affleck movie? So he was great. He was young in here, which, he was great. The whole cast of this movie was great. It was very small and like a really a small cast movie, but I actually like that a lot about this. Like I said, I don't remember the town that this movie is supposed to be in, but like it's got the whole Twin Peaks atmosphere. It looks very cold. There's nothing but trees. They're surrounded by, pine and everything, and the buildings all have this small town Washington look to it. But yeah, something's going horribly wrong in this town, and that's what they're up against. And as the movie progresses, we get hints about what's going on, and I'll leave it at that. I'll say this: I think Phantoms is a good movie. It's not a great movie, but it's a good movie. Very atypical is what was going on during this time. Of course, this was during the Scream. And what was this? 94, 95, I think. Excuse me, this was 98. So this was post Scream. So even more so, because this is not a slasher film at all. This is more of like a not really an outer space movie. I don't even know what you call it. It's kind of a weird movie, right? Like, I don't want to call it an alien movie. I don't really know what to call Phantoms per se. But I liked it. It was a good movie. There's actually some creepy looking gore effects in here. And I'm not going to describe which characters of the ones I've described before that gets their face basically destroyed and all the blood and their brain sucked out of them. But there are some after style effects, like after the scene, after the death has happened, you get to go to look at them. And it's just like, oh God. So I'll give credit there. It's a good movie. It's not a great movie. It's a good movie. What's some of the issues? I think some of the issues is there's a few CGI moments in here that the 4K definitely lets you know is CGI. That's one thing I'll say about CGI. Sometimes in the lower level picture qualities, I hate to say it, but sometimes they blend in better. We saw that with The Abyss earlier this year. I mean, it's a great movie, The Abyss, but man, when you see those optical things, they're very prevalent in movies like this. So the CGI stuff, it's a few moments, don't get me wrong, but you definitely like, oh, there's some CGI. And I just feel like the first half of the movie, where it's all suspense, like what the hell's going on, is 2 thumbs up. Then once you start to see what's going on, it kind of goes into more of like a 1 thumb up thing. So what can I say? But I liked it. I mean, the cast was great. I really liked the cast of the movie, and you know, it's definitely an alternative during the post-Scream era for sure. So I think this was also Dimension, or I know it was Dimension as well. So I'm going to give Phantoms 1 thumb up as a movie. And I implore people to check it out. I really think, you know, I'm never going to tell you, the audience, what to buy. That's not my job. My job is to give you my thoughts on a release. And if I really like it, I'll say, guys, I definitely think you should. Or, you know, be cautious. But I'm not going to say, go buy this, because I want Scream Factory to know we care about them not just putting out reissued movies. But the reality is, like, I do care about that a lot. So I will say that, like, I was really bummed out that I think that The Haunting of Julia just tanked. Because that was a movie that was raised from the depths of the VHS deathbed it was in. And Scream Factory brought that to 4K, along with Imprint overseas. But, like, I'm so happy when they do stuff, like when they announce, oh, we're putting out Phantoms on 4K. It's like, great, I don't own that movie whatsoever. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Give me something new to sink my teeth into. So I definitely say consider it, you know, look for it to maybe kind of dip down in price a little bit on Amazon, or if you can find it somewhere, if you got some Amazon points, whatever, like, consider it. I think it's a good movie. Not a great movie, but a good movie. And it's really more so to do with just the, you know, what you build up in your head is always scarier than what ends up getting revealed. That's the reality of a lot of movies. So, there we go. Guys, in terms of this release with Phantoms, I'm assuming this is the theatrical poster art. And, of course, there's no reversible art. This is just what we get right there. I will say the 4K looks sensational, and as well as the Blu-ray looks really, really good too. I demoed both of these. I watched the movie on 4K, then I demoed the Blu-ray just tonight, and it's approved by Joe Chappelle, who should sound familiar. I think Joe Chappelle is that the guy that did Halloween 6, and then didn't he work on Hellraiser 4? I think that's him. I could be off on that, but I think that's him. In terms of special features, nothing crazy, but 2 really good features. You've got a big interview. They call it a making of, but it's pretty much a big interview with the producer of the film, and his name, what was his name? Joel Soyson. And then there is another big interview with Richard Clabaugh. But the good thing about those interviews, for sure, is you learn about the movie, which is great, but what you really learn about more so is the workings of Dimension Extreme, not Dimension Extreme, but the workings of Dimension and the Weinsteins during that time, which, you know, they mostly talk about Bob, of course, because reasons. We all know why with Harvey, that's that guy. But yeah, that was the good thing, is you really learn more so about the company during that time and the workings of the company. So, yeah, just a cool title. I can kind of see why maybe there's not a massive amount of excitement for this title, because maybe people hadn't heard of it, or they kind of looked around like, is anybody else excited about this? But I think it was a good movie. It was a good movie, and it was a good 4K, so consider this one, guys. I definitely would add it to the collection, especially if you're a Scream Factory collector. And it's something new, which I'm so happy about. So definitely something I'm going to revisit probably once a year or so, and not a bad title. I'm going to give it 1 thumbs up. In terms of the 4K, though, like I said, the 4K looks sensational, and I'll give a thumbs up for the special features. I did learn a lot. It's not an abundance of features, but they were lengthy, big interviews, and for that, I'm happy. So there we go, guys. Phantoms is going to get a solid 1 thumb up from me. If you're a fan of the movie, let me know down below. And this is your old pal, CHH. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. Huge giant thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Without you guys, this would not be possible. To get behind the scenes photos, videos, music, private live streams, and much more, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Thank you to my patrons.